You can call it a surrender, or you can call it the way forward. Either way, Britain and the European Union have reset relations, or are in the process of, nearly a decade after the Brexit vote. The Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, outlined the new agreement in London alongside the EU's Ursula von der Leyen and Antonio Costa, the President of the Council. The deal covers defence and social and security, travel, you can use passports at e-gates, and fishing and trade. It was reached as the Trump administration pushes governments around the world to rethink their partnerships. Leaders in the UK and EU say they're finding ways to work together.
We're turning a page. We're opening a new chapter in our unique relationship. This is the story of historical and natural partners standing side by side on the global stage.
This deal is a win-win. It delivers what the British public voted for last year. It gives us unprecedented access to the EU market, the best of any country outside of the EU or EFTA, all while sticking to the red lines in our manifesto.
Now, Sir Simon Fraser is a founding partner at Flint Global and the former head of the British Foreign Office, joins me now. What do you make of it? Come on, you were around when a lot of this was negotiated the first time. What do you make of it?
Well, it's a complicated deal on a complicated agenda with complicated politics on both sides. So the first thing to say is it doesn't really lend itself to simplistic judgments. But having said that, it's the start of a process rather than the end of a process. But having said that, it's an important day because after nearly a decade of antagonistic relations between the UK and the EU, it does signal that both sides see the need to turn the page on that. And I think they're right, given that we've got an aggressive Russia to the east and an uncertain America to the west. Europe needs to come together and Britain has to be part of that.
So when I looked at the morning newspapers in Britain and I saw surrender screaming across, the Brexit squandered, says the leader of the opposition. And then you say others saying it's not going far. It all had a depressing ring to it. And that's my anticipation.
Not the event itself, but some of the reactions to it I found a bit depressing is a strong word, but sort of predictable in a way, because they were going back to the language of Brexit. And the whole point about this is we need to move beyond that. You know, it's nearly a decade. And it's true that if we're going to move forward, both sides are going to have to make concessions to get advantage. And they're particularly referring to the fish issue, I know, but there's a much broader agenda that we have to look across.
There's this idea as well of giving the European Court some say in defining the rules, I guess.
No, it doesn't give it that role in defining the rules. It gives the European Court of Justice authority to determine points of European law that come up in the agreement. But actually these...
Isn't that what I said?
Well, no, not quite, because what these agreements propose is that there should be new forms of arbitration bodies set up in cases of dispute. So there's a barrier, there's another level built in between. You know, you can always pick at this. Nothing's going to be perfect for either side. But the point is, which direction of travel are we in?
Right, well, we're clearly in a direction of travel of getting closer again to the EU. But that can just be on practical grounds. I mean, like the passport business and being able to use the passport cage. It doesn't mean that the UK can't do what it wanted to do elsewhere.
Well, it's true that we have done other things elsewhere. We've recently done a deal with the United States. We've recently done a deal with India. But of course, this is actually a much bigger and more important agenda economically for the UK. And as I said at the start, the breadth of the agenda is very considerable. It covers trade, it covers movement of people, it covers youth experience, it covers energy cooperation, a whole range of things. And not everything has been agreed on day one, but there is a commitment to delivering those agreements. So the acid litmus test will be, do they actually take it forward and deliver on both sides?
So you've been around these talks and negotiations, and you're obviously still involved in talking to the people who are talking to people. Does it feel different? Does it feel like there's a new reality in the post-Putin-Trump, or in the Putin-Trump world, where the toxicity's gone out of it?
I think it does feel different. I think it feels different because the incoming Labour government decided clearly that it wanted to reset this agenda. So that's the first thing in British politics. Secondly, as you said, you know, the geopolitics has changed and people have woken up to that. And it's a responsibility on both sides, actually, to come together and address the broad agenda of strategic challenges and security challenges for Europe and economic challenges. And the third point I just want to mention is the British government has a clear priority for growth. We can't grow our international economic relationships if we don't do it with the European Union.
And what about this the EU-UK or UK-EU summit every year?
Yeah.
That's, I mean, it's both an excellent idea, but it's also setting up for a lot of
it's a very good idea because it gives you a mechanism which forces delivery on the ongoing agreement. So there's going to be an annual summit and a 6-monthly foreign policy consultation. That's both good.
I'm very glad, sir. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.